To a lot of teams over the years. Recents include Roma Dunze, Jalen Carter, Defensive Player of the Year Pat Surtain, Hall of Famers including Brian Urlacher, and Luke Kuechly, new Hall of Famer. He was just inducted this year. So, Shefty, the last time the Chiefs had a top 10 pick, they took a kid named Patrick Mahomes, 10th overall, back in 2017. It worked out pretty well. What are you hearing about their plans for this year?
Well, Hannah, 9 days out of the draft with number 9 in their selection on their arsenal. They also have the 29th pick. So there's a lot of nines there. There's a lot of history there, a lot of favorable history for the Chiefs. And this is a team that has a lot of needs to address because during the offseason, they traded Trent McDuffie to the Los Angeles Rams for the 29th overall pick. They lost their other starting cornerback, Jalen Watson, to the Rams also. So there are holes in the cornerback position. At the same time, they need people to protect Patrick Mahomes. And they need to get more weapons to Patrick Mahomes. And that could even be tight end, Kenyon Sadiq from Oregon. There are a lot of ways that they can go about it. But I think the way the Chiefs are going to frame this is, are we better off going with a cornerback at 9 and a weapon and a protector at 29? Or are we better off going offensive lineman at 9 and coming back maybe to get a cornerback there? They have to think about these two picks in combination as they get closer to next week.
Yeah, I heard you chiming in there, Swagoo. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, cornerback seems like the glaring issue for me, but the Chiefs have always, Brett Veach has done a phenomenal job with flexibility, even when they were consistently picking late in drafts, finding the right fit and guys that could come in and produce. Literally, the strength of the Kansas City Chiefs for a while was that their draft picks were big parts of their championship runs, playing major roles as rookies or even younger guys, second, third year guys. So I could see them going McCoy. I could see them going Mansour Delane out of LSU. You know, I would love that to have him in Kansas City playing at a very high level. But Shefty made an interesting point with Sadiq out of Oregon because we know that Travis Kelce is in the twilight. And is it a rapport that Patrick Mahomes is going to want to build with a young, athletic tight end that put on that performance at the combine? I'm sure it'll be hard for Andy Reid and that offensive-minded staff now with Eric Bieniemy back to pass up a weapon, but to protect him as well. So the Chiefs are in prime spot, and Shefty made a great point about them picking 29th as well. But ultimately, I think they're going to have to go defense with the moves that they made this offseason, getting rid of both of their corners.
I love that, Marcus. I think you're spot on. I would love them to get a cornerback. I love them to get somebody on the end that can take pressure off of Jones inside and have a partner in crime for Karl Loftus. But honestly, the Achilles heel of the Chiefs for years now has been the wide receiver position. And I know they addressed it somewhat with Xavier Worthy, but everyone knows Xavier Worthy is more of a piece. When I look at Carnell Tate, and I know there's a lot of conversation about his 40 time and how he did at the combine. And the only reason it's so surprising is because on tape, you don't see that. You see a guy that went to the line of scrimmage. You see a guy that separates at every level, including on the deep ball. So this is an opportunity that there's a real chance that Carnell Tate could be there at 9. And if I'm the Kansas City Chiefs, it's going to be hard for me to pass up a technician like Carnell Tate, especially when we've seen the success that Ohio State receivers under Brian Hartline have had in the National Football League over the last half decade.
Yeah, I mean, that's awfully tempting considering that their leading receiver again this season was Travis Kelce for the 4th year in a row. All right, let's go to the Eagles, who have updated their receiver room this offseason, from Friday's trade for Dontavian Wicks to Hollywood Brown, obviously former Chief Elijah Moore, close friend and college teammate of A.J. Brown. And this is new on NFL Live. Eagles GM Howie Roseman was asked if these moves have any effect on Brown potentially being traded.
What do you think the odds are that I'm answering this question any different than I answered anywhere else? Like, really? Like, do you think that's like 50%? Do you think that's 75%? No. A.J. Brown's an Eagle.
You got to ask the question. Come on. People are just out there doing their jobs. Puck, can we play out the other side here? Because if I'm coming in and I'm the new OC, Sean Mannion, I mean, don't you want A.J. Brown there? Don't you want him in your offense? Keep him in the fold?
Absolutely. Like, what are we talking about? Now, I understand there's a lot of conversation around A.J. Brown, the interpersonal relationships and the ups and downs that we write about ad nauseum, it feels like, for the last few seasons. But the reality is, when you're a new offensive coordinator, you want every weapon at your disposal, especially a weapon that is instant offense. I'll give you an example. When I came to the Cleveland Browns in 2014, The Browns had opportunities to trade Josh Gordon. That was the same year Kyle Shanahan and his whole staff, who are all head coaches now, came in and they lobbied and pounded on the table to say, hey, please do not ask us to fix this offense and then take away the biggest weapon we have. Now, again, A.J. Brown's situation is nothing like Josh Gordon's situation. But the reality is, if you are an offensive mind, no matter how good you are, you want the best players, especially a player who's top 5 at his position.
Mark, I would agree with you if they did not have Devontae Smith. And I truly believe this in my heart of hearts. We know that A.J. Brown is one of the premier wide receivers in the league. But I think this relationship and how tumultuous it looked last year, especially between him and Sirianni at times having blowups on the sideline, between AJ and Jalen not being on the same page. And it felt like, I don't know if you two feel like this between Schefter and Hart, it felt like it had run its course. I said it soon as, close after the season ended, that the Philadelphia Eagles needed to trade A.J. Brown. Move on. You got a young receiver that you drafted high, a former Heisman Trophy winner in Devontae Smith, who has played in huge games and performed big in huge games as well. So I think that makes this situation a little bit different, because I don't believe, and as great as I think AJ is, I think a lot of people look at Devontae Smith as a 1 as well. So Howie has that flexibility. He's been super active around drafts the last couple of years. And I'm interested to see if at the 11th hour, we sitting during the draft and Howie Roseman has made a move either with A.J. Brown being a part of some type of trade package to go get somebody that we didn't know. Because I did not expect Jalen Carter to be on this roster 2 years ago. 3 years ago, maybe.
Big Swaggo, I am not expecting them to make a move with A.J. Brown during the draft. I think that will wait until about June 1st. And if you listen to Howie Roseman talk there,
money.
If you listen to what he said there, it wasn't what he said, it was what he didn't say. There is plenty of opportunity at some point in time for Howie Roseman to say, A.J. Brown isn't going anywhere. We can stop all this talk. That has not happened. His common sense that he's repeated over and over is that A.J. Brown is an Eagle. That's all he keeps saying. And you know what? If and when they trade him after June 1st, then A.J. Brown won't be an Eagle anymore. Then he won't be an Eagle. But Howie is, it's not what he's saying, it's what he's not saying that tells you that they remain open to dealing A.J. Brown, and June 1st is the more likely target date for a potential deal.
See, that's why I shifted the guy, because I forgot about the money.
Right.
The money matters after June. My bad.
I just want to say it's a $43 million dead cap hit, right, if he's traded before June 1st. Anyway, Hawk?
Absolutely. That matters. For everything Adam said is spot on.
Yeah. Okay.
Devontae Smith is not the same receiver without A.J. Brown. Not that he's not a number one and a great receiver, but it's a lot easier when you have that player control on each side. So the Eagles need to have a plan for that, for an offense that has struggled to find first down.
I think we're losing. Did we lose?
Hawk.
Yeah, we're losing Hawk's audio, right? But we can lip read and we know what he means, right? Devontae wouldn't be as good without AJ. I'm just going to sum it up right there.
I'll expound, Hannah, because Hawk makes
He's right.
a really good point.
Yeah.
He makes a really good point. And any receiver opposite of A.J. Brown will probably have an easier job in this league. Don't get it twisted. I just hearken back to the fact that they drafted Devontae Smith and paid him, and he's performed in big-time clutch moments for them. So I get that he may not be the same receiver. I don't believe Philly looks at him that way. I think the Philadelphia Eagles, matter of fact, I know, talking to a lot of these guys during the year, that they think of Devontae Smith as a number one wide receiver.
Interesting. Okay.
Yes.
I like, listen, the bottom line there in Philly is they'll do whatever they have to get back to a Super Bowl, right? Because that's the goal. It's always the Super Bowl. I know it is with other teams, but certainly with Philly, they could feel like they underachieved last year, making some changes to get back. All right. Let's get to some top stories, and let's start with the draft host city. And goodness, how many times have I asked you this question, Shefty? What's the latest with Aaron Rodgers?
Well, here's the difference, Hannah. We are 9 days out of the draft, 9 days away, and still don't have an answer from number 8. The Pittsburgh Steelers are waiting for a response. We thought we'd have one in mid-February. We thought we'd have one in mid-March at the start of free agency. Now we have the Steelers owner saying that he expects one by next week at the draft. Still no answer. And as long as there's no answer, it remains a question. And if he doesn't come back, do the Steelers even discuss taking Ty Simpson with the 21st overall selection in the first round? Or where ultimately does Ty Simpson go? Most everybody agrees he is expected to be the second quarterback selected in this upcoming draft, but there is obviously a lot of opinions on where he will go and whether he will sneak into the first round. As for the Jacksonville Jaguars, who traded for Travis Hunter last year, they expect there to be a noticeable spike in his snaps at the cornerback position. They still plan to play him at wide receiver the way they did last year, but he will play a lot more cornerback with the Jaguars having lost Greg Newsome to the New York Giants during free agency. There's a hole there in Jacksonville. They're counting on Travis Hunter to fill it. And speaking of defensive backs, Nasir Adderley, who's been out of football the last few years in retirement and who announced in February that he intended to return, landed today with the Indianapolis Colts. Remember, the Colts head coach Shane Steichen was the Chargers offensive coordinator when they drafted Adderley. Now Steichen is there to give him another chance to come back into the league, with the Colts looking for added help. They've added some today in Nasir Adderley, who obviously was off to a strong start before he decided to retire.
Yeah, that's such an interesting story, and you can understand it. I mean, no team allowed more receptions last season than the Colts, so they're looking for some help. And we are just getting started. To see more of Caleb Banks, check out the 2026 draft. Again, it's April 23rd. And check this out, guys, because, you know, we have a hawk here. So we put the NFL Live crew on skateboards.
Look at Hannah with a beanie on.
I love it. Swagoo, have you ever been on a skateboard?
I have been on a skateboard, and I can skateboard.
You can?
Not that that should be shocking to anyone. I'm a superior athlete. So, but yeah, I've been on a skateboard, bought one before, and was on it when I was young.
Okay.
They're really fun.
We all know about, yes, your multi-sport prowess there, and just how good you are at hoops as well. Hawk, what about you? Skateboarding in your past? Yeah?
I used to skateboard as well. I used to get down. Tony Hawk was a whole wave when we was kids. So it
was.
You know, when he hit the 820, it was a whole movement. I could kick flip. I used to be scraping my knees up and all of that. Yeah, man. And Tony Hawk tweeted me once.
What?
That's like one of my biggest accomplishments.
Really?
Okay.
Yeah. He tweeted me. It was a big deal for me. I'm still, you know, reveling in that.
Wow, that is so cool. Hawk
Legendary.
to Hawk. And I think we look pretty good, you guys. And I agree.
Hannah,
I like that.
Hannah, your job is to ask the question, can you skateboard? Hannah Storm?
I've tried. And the answer is absolutely not. Let's move on to the Texans. That's my answer, Swagoo. Okay, Nick.
Other than quarterback,
Yeah.
like there's no position that we wouldn't consider drafting if that's what the board told us. So that's why we set the board. That's why we spend as much time on it as possible and say, okay, here's a group we're picking from. And again, we're not picking every player. Like, we're going to reduce it down to however many players that at some point we would consider drafting if we had the opportunity.
That was Nick Casario, obviously interrupting our skateboarding discussion. Swagoo, what would be ideal for the Texans, do you think, in the draft?
I think when Houston comes to mind, the first thing you think is protection for C.J. Stroud, continuing to build this offensive line. They obviously made some moves this offseason to try to solidify that. The other one, and Hawk is going to like this too, and I see the D tackles down there. What about wide receiver? I think Higgins played well last year as a number 2, and we saw obviously Nico become a number 1 wide receiver and continue to ascend. He dealt with some injuries. Christian Kirk was big in the playoff game against the New England Patriots. So there's a lot that Houston has at that position. But I wonder if it's like drafting a guy to become, you know, a big play, home run type guy, give C.J. Stroud another weapon. Now, It's not what I would do at all. I would focus on protecting him or focus on the interior of that defensive line. But I think CJ Stroud is going to be kind of hovering over everybody while they're in that war room, trying to figure out, do we go offensive line and make sure we solidify that?
Yeah.
Or do we get him another weapon and try to get this offense to where it needs to be during the playoff run? Because defense was not the Houston Texans' problem.
No, it was
on
not.
their way to trying to win a Super Bowl.
That was not the problem at all. Hawk, which way would you go? Would you go like interior line? Would you go a weapon? What would you do?
I like the receiver comp. That's not where I'm going, but I like it because the questions around, how fast is Tank Dell going to get back up to full speed, right? Because he was such a dynamic player early before the injury. And if he can continue to progress there, then you're fine. But that will be a question for them. And there'll be opportunities there in this draft. What Swagoo said about the interior line, both on offense and defense, is the place to kind of take the next step for this Texas team. To your point, the defense is great, but that interior defensive line was not like what it could be as compared to the other pieces of the defense. And on the offense, we know CJ Stroud plays best when he's protected, and he turns into a different player whenever there's quick pressure up the middle. So that's where they have to focus in on, because there's a big opportunity there as an offense.
Yeah, we really saw that in the playoffs. He just crumbled. By the way, that interior line's allowed 24 sacks since DeMeco Ryans has been there. That's fifth most in the
best available player is also a position in need. But, I would say last year, if you look at what we did with Abdul, we had Kayvon and we had Burns here, and we still took Abdul. So we were, really strong at outside backer when we added Abdul to the roster. So similar, we're going through, we're going to stack the board, and, the best player available is the direction we'll go. We've gotten a couple calls of, teams sniffing around about potentially coming up, and again, we'll just have to wait and see who's there when we pick. I don't really foresee us moving back before next Thursday night.
Okay, best available. That was some pretty good information there. Adam, what more can you tell us about the Giants draft plans?
Hannah, this is the first draft pick for new New York Giants head coach John Harbaugh. He'll be looking for somebody to establish a culture, to represent the values that he does, and that's why it's such an important pick for this team. And there are a lot of directions they can go. A lot of people wonder whether they would roll the dice on Jeremiah Love, who many consider to be the best player in this draft, or whether they would go a more traditional route and stick with the defensive side of the football where they could really use some help. Sonny Styles, linebacker, Ohio State. Caleb Downs, safety, Ohio State. A lot of people around the league think that the Giants' first pick could come out of Columbus, Ohio.
Wow. What do you think, Swagoo? Woo, which way would you go?
Yeah, look, position of strength, number one. Shane was alluding to a lot of people calling potentially about trading down or trading back. But I think if Jeremiah Love is there, you go get him. And I understand defensively, but they brought in Javon Holland. They brought in some defensive guys. You're dealing with the Dexter Lawrence, wanting out, but more so wanting a new contract. But Jeremiah Love with a young quarterback that you're trying to continue to develop. And remember, Harbaugh has not, since he's been in Baltimore, he's had a beast in the backfield. Exactly. He knows how much that particular position means to the success of his football team. And I like Scatterboo and his toughness and all of that stuff, but I don't think he's going to be the feature back. And if Jeremiah Love is there at 5, I think you'll be hard-pressed to pass him up, and maybe later on in a defensive-heavy draft, try to figure out a way to get you a really good player on your back end.
I don't think you're wrong, Marcus. I think also a thing that Harbaugh has always had is an incredible safety, right?
Yep.
You think about Ed Reed. You think after Ed Reed left, they did what they had to do to get Kyle Hamilton. For that defense, he understands a playmaking safety that can do it all, whether you're playing in the box, playing off the hash, deep passes. And Caleb Downs is all of those things, a true difference maker on a defense that John Harbaugh is used to having, a quarterback over there to say, hey, let's solidify this and then figure out what we need to do on the offensive side of the ball. So I think Caleb Downs is the best defensive player in this draft. Yeah. And if he's at 5, I think it fits right up Harbaugh's alley to go there and get him and put somebody on the back end that can really stabilize that D.
It's so cool because when you're talking both of those guys, Love and Downs, you're talking about guys who can do a lot of different things, and both of whom are culture setters as well.
Absolutely.
All right, now then we have a little drama. Dexter Lawrence didn't show up at the office last week, so what are Joe Shane and company doing about that, Adam? Any word?
Yeah, Shefty, what they doing?
Well, Hannah, they're trying to work out they're trying to see if they could work out a contract agreement with Dexter Lawrence. So far, no luck. And there are teams that are calling the Giants to figure out whether or not they'll be able to pry loose Dexter Lawrence. It sounds like the issue will have to come to a head at some point in the next week or so, certainly by the time of the draft. Either the Giants can figure out a way to extend him, or they move on from him if they can't and trade him. There are any number of teams who would be interested in trading for Lawrence. We'll see what winds up happening. So far, not a lot of progress in contract discussions. We'll see if the two sides can figure out a way to make it happen.
All right, Shefty, let's move on to a couple of folks talking in case you missed it. We want to show you Lions GM Brad Holmes, who spoke yesterday about Detroit's approach if they see a player they want on that draft board.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, if it's the right guy. Yeah. I mean, you guys know me. I feel like you guys get mad at me sometimes. I do that too much sometimes. But no, if we have that kind of conviction for a player, absolutely. We're gonna go and get him.
I love it because he is drafted so well, Swagoo. They're sitting at 17. Yeah. Should they be all in on somebody in round one?
Yeah, I think, look, Taylor Decker being off this roster, protection, the pass rush has always come up, but I think more so with the offense that you run with Jared Goff, the running game that you want to have with Jahmyr Gibbs, and now David Montgomery being gone. You want protection, you want that ability to run the football and get back to some smash mouth. I think you go offensive line and then later on try to continue to solidify this defensive line with some depth.
Yeah, Holmes has made all the right moves early in his drafts. All right, meanwhile, the Cowboys back in the headlines. You know, they don't like to stay out of them for very long. Stephen Jones was asked about whether he heard from anyone regarding a first-round pick swap for George Pickens.
Can you confirm or deny if you guys have gotten any calls for first-round pick offers for George Pickens thus far?
Yeah, you hate to get into things like that, but no, we've had no one call, with interest in George Pickens.
Hawk, tomorrow's exactly 3 months from the deadline to make a deal. They need to get something done with him or try to trade him.
I'd say they try to get something done with him, what he did for their offense. He gave us a lot of information for someone who doesn't want to get into it, but it really is an advantageous question for him because, number one, if you do want him, I want everyone to know there's no competition. And for George Pickens, nobody's calling, so it gives me leverage in that negotiation.
I love the way that Swagoo just weighs in on all things Cowboys. It's so good.
Hawk was thinking exactly what I was thinking.
Exactly. Okay, Patriots VP of Player Personnel, Elliott Wolf, spoke yesterday. He didn't rule out the possibility of New England making a move for A.J. Brown.
As far as players on other teams, again, going to keep the door open to anything that we think may improve our roster, whether that's with the player you mentioned or other players.
Obviously, Brown was the player that was mentioned. What you hearing there, Shefty, from the Pats side?
Hannah, how many times do I have to say it? A.J. Brown's an Eagle. A.J. Brown is an Eagle, okay? We've said it at the owners' meetings. We said it during free agency. We're going to say it again right now. A.J. Brown is an Eagle. Until he's not, A.J. Brown is an Eagle.
Can we put this on ice until June, please, just for Shefty and his, mental health here? This is crazy. All right, but I do want to ask you, though, about Christian Gonzalez, right? Their star cornerback. What's going on there? What's the latest?
Look, I think there are two cornerbacks here at some point this offseason that are going to wind up with lucrative new extensions. Devin Witherspoon in Seattle, Christian Gonzalez in New England. Both cornerbacks were in the Super Bowl. They're two of the best defensive players in the game. I think both will wind up with new deals. New England's going to want to sign Christian Gonzalez to a new deal. It's hard to imagine they wouldn't figure out a way to get that done with as well as he's played and as much talent as he's shown. So, yeah, at some point this offseason, with him being eligible for that contract extension, it would not surprise a lot of people if that deal got done.
Yeah, and when he and Milton Williams both played, they went 12-1. I mean, the only game they lost when both of those guys were in was actually the Super Bowl. All right, coming up, we have seen 66-pound lineman Kaden Proctor has become a fan favorite in the crispy package. That's touching the ball in several SEC games this year. He's lined up as a fullback. He has caught a lateral for a first down. He has even taken a snap at quarterback. His mix of size and agility definitely turning heads as he builds his case as maybe the best pound-for-pound athlete in college football. Marty Smith has the story.
Coach Grubb called the play.
Another little wrinkle here. They go empty. They got Kaden Proctor, the big tackle on the left side.
I'm like, man, this is real. I'm out here in a wide receiver stance.
They're going to throw it to him.
Everything closed in fast for me. And it was like, well, now I got to go run somebody over.
Big fella, barreling downhill, marshaling down near the pylon. Are you kidding me?
That was not an earthquake. That was Kaden Proctor.
What is the name of the offensive package that ends with the football in Kaden Proctor's hands?
Crispy. Crispy. My nickname, Crispy.
Why was it named Crispy?
Freshman year, I had got up to 400 pounds because of Krispy Kreme donuts. We can have fun and joke about it now that I'm not anywhere near 400 pounds.
I know that you've been on this journey to get a little leaner. Why?
After that week 1 loss versus FSU, Tyler Booker and J.C. Latham called me, and those are people that I love and that have been in my corner, and said, you're not playing fast at all, man. We got NFL teams saying the only concern that they have is my weight. And that kind of hits hard. You got to take that serious. I feel like having that weight on was hindering me from getting to where I needed to go.
How much weight have you lost?
20, 25.
Wow.
Since week 1.
He's absolutely put the time in. As a matter of fact, this morning he weighed 356.2. He's in a really good spot now of trying to maximize and have fun at the things they're trying to do with him, for sure.
How did the crispy package come to be?
I've talked to coaches about, going to play in D-line and going to wide receiver, going to running back. But I was really just saying it as a joke. But, Coach Grubb, he took it serious.
We were utilizing him in the backfield in different ways as a run blocker. The package grows to now, if you're going to start him out wide, you might as well keep him out there and let's see if he can catch the ball.
And I said, are we really going to run this in the game? And he's like, yes.
And Kaden Proctor, did y'all see this? I almost cried.
It's fun for our offense, it's fun for our team, but it also is something we're doing to help us win football games, and so it's not a gimmick.
They give it to Kaden Proctor for the first down.
What's your favorite way to receive the ball?
I say the Wildcat one was definitely my favorite. Just getting the direct snap and going and reading and running, sticking your foot in the ground.
Oh, you do it, big man. How about that?
What did you say to him after the run at Missouri?
Get in the end zone.
Wow, see what you can do when you cut out donuts. I mean, just amazing. Hey, we saw it there. He's one of your favorites on Big Man Ball and Swagoo. Come on, take us through some of his plays.
Yeah, first of all, y'all saw how excited I was when they lined him up wide to catch the screen. Because usually they put us out there as a decoy, and they don't want to use us. They want to put us in front of these little dudes like Hawk so we can make way for them. But this time, the little fellas was making way for Kaden Proctor. So I love this play. I love that the board called it as well. Sometimes you have to have the courage. But on this one here, lined up at fullback, you got to go get 1 yard. And the big rule for big fellas like us is that the first man can never tackle you. And that's what Kaden Proctor did. Read his blocks well. We stuck his foot in the ground and cut out the backside. I got some running backs in the NFL that still can't do that at a very high level. So the big fella looks phenomenal, and he's lost some weight. So I want to see if he lines up in the slot this year a little bit at wide receiver at Bama. And this is the one that's going to help him on this journey to being an elite NFL offensive lineman. And respect to his former teammates and brothers, telling them what people were saying, trying to get him ready for this moment. He's gonna be a really good offensive lineman on the next level.
I love offensive linemen getting their love, and I understand, you guys do sacrifice a lot. But when a coach motioned me down to cut off Mario Williams in a game, I called him stupid because I shouldn't be doing a big man's job. And I'm going to say the same thing about a big man doing a little man. That screen, that's my territory, okay? He's one spin move away from the Bolitnikov, and I'm supposed to clap for that? That's my pass.
Wait a second.
Come on, man.
You got to be careful who you're talking to here, Hawk, okay? Because we're going to flash it back right now. We got a crispy package. Oh, yeah, we do.
Oh, yeah.
From the year 2000 Louisiana Class A state championship. Look at Swagoo, 55-yard touchdown pass. Look at number 84 slinging it.
Let me see what you got.
We call this tight end double pass. My quarterback, Gerard Burrow, throws me the double pass, and I find my dude, Justin Plummer, downfield. Hawk, look where the ball landed at. Right over the safety in the pocket. Look, and taking some pressure up front. Get that thing out there and get in the end zone. It's still the worst loss I've ever suffered in my life, the state championship.
Oh, and you lost the game. Oh, I'm sorry about that.
Man.
But, I mean,
But that's a
Hawk,
big play. That was a
Hawk, how perfect is that pass, though? I mean, come on.
Hey, y'all might have lost the game, Swagoo, but you came to play because the pass was on point.
Sir.
And not only that, the poise that you had sitting back there in the pocket was next level. That's what I'm most impressed with.
He is. He's incredible.
Hawk, y'all also got to peep the high cut jersey like Kaden Proctor had. I don't know why we like showing our stomachs off, but we love them. And I had that high cut jersey too, man.
I just thought it was 1986.
Was not the first to do it. The big fellas did it first, man.
It all starts with the big fellas. Man, we have learned a lot about you, Swagoo, today. You can skateboard, you can throw a football.